The history of the colonization of North America is one of the most well-known stories in the making of any nation across the globe. Spain, France, and England all played important roles in shaping what would become the United States of America. Yet, when most people think back on this history, they especially remember the efforts of the English above all others. So how did the English actually manage to colonize America? To answer that, we must first understand why they wanted to in the first place. Several key reasons pushed England toward the New World. These reasons were explained in a 1584 work by Richard Hakluyt called A Discourse on Western Planting. In it, he argued that colonization would benefit not only England, but also God. He claimed that Protestant England had a duty to rescue North America from the Catholic powers who dominated much of the land, particularly Spain. England and Spain were already fierce rivals not only in religion, but in politics, trade, and naval power. Still, Hakluyt's argument struck a chord. He also pointed out the clear economic and social advantages of colonization. England was crowded with unemployed and landless people wandering as vagabonds. A colony overseas could give them new land and work, while also producing great profit for England through expanded trade. The New World promised vast resources waiting to be tapped. These arguments echoed through England, and as the Spanish showed, off their early wealth and success envy drove the English toward a decision to pursue colonies of their own. Queen Elizabeth chose a somewhat unusual path to begin. Rather than planting colonies right away, she sponsored private sailors who became known as sea dogs. These men engaged in privateering, which was essentially legalized piracy against Spain. Two of the most famous were John Hawkins and Francis Drake, who harassed Spanish ships and raided their treasure fleets, even as far away as the Pacific coast of Peru. Such daring attacks enraged Spain and deepened the animosity between the two nations. Tensions reached new heights when Elizabeth ordered the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, in 1587. The following year, King Philip II of Spain launched what he believed would be a decisive invasion of England. His so-called Spanish Armada was the largest naval force Europe had yet seen, with 130 ships carrying over 18,000 soldiers and 8,000 sailors. The Armada's goal was nothing less than the destruction of the English Navy. At first glance, Spain had the advantage in numbers, but the English fleet was better suited for maneuvering and fighting in the rough northern waters. Their smaller, more agile ships outperformed the bulky Spanish galleons. After fierce battles, the Armada was forced to retreat toward the Netherlands for reinforcements. Then, disaster struck. A violent storm scattered and wrecked many of the Spanish vessels, leaving the English victors. The defeat of the Armada was a turning point. England had defended itself against the might of Spain, and now could turn its attention toward building colonies across the Atlantic. Still, the first English attempts at colonization ended in failure. Sir Humphrey Gilbert tried to establish a settlement in Newfoundland, but it collapsed. In 1587, John White led a group of about 150 colonists to Roanoke Island off the coast of present-day North Carolina. Supplies quickly ran short. White returned to England to gather more resources, but he was delayed for years because of the conflict with Spain. When he finally came back, he found the colony abandoned with no trace of his people. Roanoke became known as the Lost Colony, and it discouraged further efforts for some time. When the 17th century began, England still had no permanent colony in America. Queen Elizabeth died in 1603, and her successor, King James, took up the challenge. In 1606, he established the Virginia Company to fund new expeditions. The following year, 3 ships, the Discovery, the Susan Constant, and the Godspeed, sailed to the coast of Virginia and founded Jamestown. This settlement became the first lasting English colony in America. At the same time, the Plymouth Company attempted to plant a colony in Maine known as Popham, but it quickly failed. Jamestown endured, but survival was far from easy. The early years at Jamestown were filled with misery. The settlers were unprepared for the harsh life that awaited them. Many were gentlemen unused to hard labor, and they struggled to farm the land, which was swampy and difficult. Starvation and disease took a heavy toll. By 1617, only a fraction of the original settlers remained alive. The Powhatan Confederacy, a powerful group of Native Americans numbering about 10,000, helped the struggling colonists at first by sharing food and teaching them how to adapt to the environment. Without this assistance, Jamestown may have collapsed entirely. But relations with the Powhatan soon grew strained. More settlers kept arriving and food shortages persisted. By 1609, hundreds more colonists had reached Virginia, yet many continued to die from hunger and illness. Skirmishes with the Powhatan broke out, and the colony seemed close to ruin. A turning point came in 1614, when Pocahontas, the daughter of Powhatan, married an Englishman named John Rolfe. Their marriage brought a temporary peace between the groups. Rolfe also introduced a crop that would change everything: tobacco. Tobacco was native to the Americas, but when the colonists began cultivating it for export to Europe, demand soared. Within decades, Jamestown was exporting millions of pounds of tobacco each year. The once desperate settlement was transformed into a profitable colony. Tobacco created jobs and wealth, and it encouraged more English migration. Yet expansion came at a cost. As colonists cleared more land for plantations, they encroached further on native territory. After Powhatan's death, his brother took leadership and launched a massive assault in 1622, killing more than 300 colonists in a single day. The English responded with relentless violence and war. From that point on, their approach to colonization hardened. They no longer sought coexistence with the natives, as the Spanish and French often tried through conversion or alliances. Instead, they relied on force to seize land. This attitude was shaped partly by England's earlier experiences conquering Ireland, where they had subdued the Catholic population through brutality. Now in America, they used similar methods. Combined with European diseases, the impact on Native Americans was devastating. Their populations declined dramatically, and their control over their ancestral lands weakened. Meanwhile, the English kept expanding. The success of Virginia encouraged further colonies. Puritans seeking religious freedom founded Massachusetts. Traders and settlers pushed into New York and New Jersey. William Penn established Pennsylvania as a haven for Quakers. Maryland was founded with religious tolerance for Catholics, while the Carolinas grew with plantation agriculture. Rhode Island and Connecticut developed as distinct religious communities, and New Hampshire carved its own path. By the early 18th century, 13 English colonies stretched along the Atlantic coast from Georgia in the south to New Hampshire in the north. Together they formed a powerful and growing presence in North America. The foundation of these colonies can be traced back to that fragile settlement at Jamestown and to the boom created by tobacco. Without it, the English might have abandoned their efforts after so many early failures. Instead, they found a profitable model that sustained them and encouraged more settlers to cross the ocean. Colonies brought wealth to the crown and new opportunities for ordinary Englishmen and women, while also laying the groundwork for what would one day become the United States.